Hi guys.
Hello.
Hi. Now Miss Hodges is out at her wedding still, or not her wedding, but a wedding for a family member. So it's just going to be the three of us today. But we love her and miss her, and she'll be back soon. I believe Tuesday. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So we are continuing our study of Egypt. I know we talked about it in my class, but we are more than halfway through, guys. It's crazy. So we're going to look at. We've already studied the Old Kingdom of Egypt. We are going to look at our Middle and New Kingdoms today. And our reason why it matters right here is that the leaders during the Golden Age of Egypt expanded the empire through trade. And although Egypt later declined, that means it went down in power and status, it greatly influenced other civilizations. Remember to answer all your hot questions and pay attention till the very end, because you never know how that's going to benefit you. All right, we'll see you guys soon. We're ready to dive right in.
Bye.
Remember that when we last left off, we had just finished discussing the Old Kingdom, or the first period of time during which Egypt was powerful. It stretched all the way from the first cataract to the Nile Delta, as my little line gets all squiggly. The Old Kingdom was known for monuments such as the Sphinx and the pyramids. Today we're going to talk about two more time periods, the Middle Kingdom and the New Kingdom. Today we'll see Egypt grow and flourish from a small river valley civilization to a mighty nation with a strong army, trade networks, and larger borders. Two statements categorize today's lesson. United we stand, divided we fall, and our enemies are always watching. As we go forward, see how these statements will be applied to ancient Egypt.
After 200 years of chaos and the decline of the Old Kingdom, a new dynasty of pharaohs finally came to power. These new pharaohs were from a city called Thebes, which began a period of peace and order in what is now known as the Middle Kingdom. So, here is a comparison for you guys. Now, circa 2050 BC, a powerful pharaoh named Mentuhotep II united Egypt and started a peaceful rule. This began the Middle Kingdom, a period of order and stability that lasted until about 1750 BC. Now, the Middle Kingdom is often referred to as the Golden Age because it was known for trade, the building of roads, and the economy thrived. If you look at the map to the right, you can see where the Middle Kingdom expanded beyond the Old Kingdom. So, the Old Kingdom is the orange here, and it stops right before the first cataract. But now with the Middle Kingdom, remember we increased trade, we have roads and canals, so it connects different parts of land. So, the Middle Kingdom extends even further down past the second cataract. Now, pharaohs added thousands of acres of land that were already being farmed, which increased the crop production. Now, the surplus of food called for roads and new canals to be built. That way it could increase trade routes, thus leading to a thriving economy. Now, during the Middle Kingdom, the Egyptians developed a new kind of architecture. Pharaohs no longer had pyramids built. Instead, they had their tombs cut into limestone cliffs where the west of the Nile River. Remember, west is this way. So they were actually being built out here in the desert. This area became known as the Valley of Kings, as seen in this picture. Now, remember, people were robbing their tombs, they were robbing these pyramids, so in order to protect their pharaohs better, they decided they would build tombs inside of these cliffs for better protection. At the end of the Middle Kingdom, the pharaohs could not keep the kingdom together. Egyptian nobles challenged the power of the pharaohs. Now, civil war divided Egypt, ending an era of peace and prosperity. Remember, our enemies are always watching, and at this time, Egypt's enemies were known as the Hyksos. Okay, so this period of the ending of prosperity and peace, this led to an invasion from a group from Southwest Asia called the Hyksos. And here is a picture of those people. So, the Hyksos came from Western Asia. They rode in chariots and fought with sturdy weapons. Now, around 1550 BC, an Egyptian prince named Ahmose formed an army and drove the Hyksos out of Egypt, thus leading us to a new kingdom known as the New Kingdom. And Ms. Todrick's going to talk about more.
So we know that our enemies are always watching, whether it's in the ancient world or today. And this was true at the end of the Old Kingdom when the Hyksos came in and took over from the weak Egyptians. But eventually the Hyksos faced the same problem, and they were overturned by Egyptians who wanted their kingdom back. So we call this period of time the New Kingdom. This is circa, or right around, 1550 to 1070 BC. So if I do the math, I'm talking about 3,000 years ago. It was began by Pharaoh Ahmose. And this is the period of time in which Egypt reached its power and glory. It was at its strongest and most powerful. And we saw that at the very beginning of our video when we talked about the different maps, and we saw how Egypt grew from just a little area along the Nile, stopping at that first cataract, to a much bigger empire, almost reaching into the Fertile Crescent. During this time, Egypt really focused on creating a strong military empire and expanding trade. And I want you to put a star right by that box, or circle it, maybe highlight it, because that's one of the most important features of the New Kingdom, was their military empire and their huge focus on trade. Now we have two leaders that we're going to be looking at for the New Kingdom that really focused on both of those goals. Our first one is one of the first and only female pharaohs of ancient Egypt, Queen Hatshepsut. So go ahead and fill in her name up here in the hello my name is box, and you'll notice here she is down here, obviously female, but she's got a little fake beard. That's because that beard was a symbol of the pharaohship. It was a symbol of the glory and power that pharaohs had. So she managed to take that on, and she wanted to wear it to show everybody that, hey, she is just as powerful a pharaoh as a male pharaoh would be. She was Egypt's first female pharaoh, and she wasn't ever supposed to be pharaoh. Her half-brother was supposed to be pharaoh, but she kind of stole the throne from him a little bit because he was very young when their father died. And so she ruled for him and then never quite gave it back. So he wasn't real happy about that, but she ended up being a great leader. She worked really hard to increase Egyptian trade. And trade routes, those are the routes, the kind of paths that merchants follow. And she, by doing that, managed to make all sorts of alliances all over both Egypt, into Africa, and into Mesopotamia as well. So that's kind of that trade part of that really important. But the second figure that we're going to look at, King Ramesses the Great, he was the one who really brought the New Kingdom to its highest glory. He was a great warrior and builder. Put a star by that because that's a really important concept. If we were to, I don't know, on a formative, ask you what Ramesses is known for, then that might be something we would be looking for, was his great warrior skills and his great building skills. He built things such as temples, monuments, but not pyramids. Remember, pyramids were only in the Old Kingdom because they kept getting robbed. Ramesses instead built things that showed the glory of Egypt to people all around. And he also fought against the Hittites. They were a group from Asia Minor, or Turkey, kind of that western area of the Fertile Crescent that we saw had a lot of the same people that came in and conquered Babylon. And so he fought them, and eventually they were so impressed with his skills as a warrior that he became allies with them. And so they managed to have kind of an alliance that made both of them stronger. But between these two figures here, Ramesses and Hatshepsut, the New Kingdom was a period of time full of really powerful names of Egypt. King Tut is also a New Kingdom pharaoh. We've talked a little bit about why he's not as important, even though we learn a lot from him. But these two figures probably helped Egypt grow the most during the New Kingdom.
Although Egypt was powerful for a long time, it wasn't invincible. It survived many invasions, but eventually lost its power forever to other powers such as the Greek and Romans. We'll talk more about the story of how Egypt lost its power when we get to those civilizations. But for now, reflect back on our study of ancient Egypt and think about our hot question. How do phrases, "United we stand, divided we fall," and "your enemies are always watching," apply to the rulers of ancient Egypt? Bye, guys.
All right, guys, so here we are at the very end of the video. If you're watching this, you are doing the right thing. You are on track, and you know that this is going to pay off. So here is our bad pun of the evening.
Miss Lewis, where is a pharaoh's favorite place to eat?
Pizza Tut. You guys know you love us. All right, we'll see you soon, guys. Have a great night.